You're waiting, not loudly, not desperately, quietly, waiting for a message, a change, an apology, a sign. And days pass, then months, then years. Buddhism has a hard truth most people avoid. The suffering is not that they don't come. The suffering is that you keep waiting. Tonight we end that habit, not with anger, not with hatred, but with clarity. 1. Waiting is a form of attachment. In Buddhism, attachment is often misunderstood. People think it only means clinging to physical things, relationships, or pleasures. But attachment goes much deeper than that. One of the most subtle and destructive forms of attachment is clinging to outcomes. This is where waiting lives. When you wait for someone to show up, change, apologize, commit, or finally choose you, you are not simply being patient. You are tying your inner peace to a future event that may never happen. Your emotional stability becomes conditional. You are calm only if something outside you behaves the way you want it to. This is why waiting feels exhausting. It is not passive. It is a constant mental activity. Your mind keeps checking reality against your expectations. Did they message? Did they think of me? Will today be the day? Each unanswered question creates tension. Each delay creates disappointment. Even moments of hope create anxiety because they can collapse at any second. From a Buddhist perspective, this is dukkha, suffering created by resistance to what is. You are not suffering because someone hasn't come. You are suffering because you refuse to accept the present moment as complete without them. Waiting places your life on pause. You continue breathing, working, and functioning, but internally you are suspended. Part of you is always elsewhere, leaning toward a future version of reality where things finally feel right. This split creates heaviness. You are here, but your heart is not. Buddhism teaches that peace exists only in direct contact with reality. The moment you add conditions to your peace, it disappears. Waiting is one of the most common conditions people place on their happiness. I'll be okay when they respond. I'll feel better when they change. I'll move on when I understand why. But reality does not negotiate. Life does not pause to meet our emotional timelines. People do not transform on command. When we demand that life behave differently than it is, we enter into conflict with existence itself. That conflict is suffering. Another reason waiting feels heavy is that it involves hope without stability. Hope itself is not harmful, but hope that is disconnected from evidence becomes a burden. You are carrying an emotional investment without a foundation. There is no ground beneath it. You are leaning forward with nothing to lean on. Buddhism emphasizes seeing things clearly. Clear seeing means observing what is actually happening, not what might happen, not what should happen, and not what you wish would happen. If someone consistently does not show up, does not respond, or does not choose you, that is the reality. Waiting is a refusal to fully acknowledge that reality. This refusal is rarely conscious. Most people believe they are being loving, patient, or understanding. But underneath those labels is fear. Fear of letting go, fear of accepting loss, fear of admitting that something is already over. Attachment thrives on fear. It whispers that letting go means failure, abandonment, or emptiness. Buddhism teaches the opposite. Letting go does not create emptiness. It reveals the peace that was already there before attachment covered it. When you stop waiting, you stop demanding that life confirm your worth. You stop asking another person to complete a story that is already unfolding without them. This does not mean you become cold or indifferent. It means you stop negotiating with reality. Demanding that life behave differently than it is creates constant friction. Imagine pushing against a river, insisting it flows backward. You will feel tired, frustrated, and defeated. The river does not hate you. It is simply moving according to its nature. People are the same. Freedom begins when you stop demanding, Not because you give up, but because you finally stop fighting what already exists. Acceptance is not resignation. Acceptance is clarity. It is seeing clearly enough to stop hurting yourself. When you release waiting, something subtle shifts. Your attention returns to the present moment. Your energy comes back into your body. Your mind quiets because it is no longer scanning the future for relief. You realize that peace was never at the end of waiting. It was blocked by it. Buddhism does not ask you to suppress desire or become detached from life. It asks you to stop clinging. Clinging is the tightening around an outcome. Waiting is that tightening stretched over time. The moment you loosen your grip, the heaviness lifts, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you are no longer at war with it. You don't need people to arrive for your life to begin. You don't need answers to stop suffering. You don't need closure to be free. You need to stop waiting. That is where freedom starts. 2. You cannot force awake someone asleep. One of the most painful attachments people carry is the belief that if they wait long enough, love deeply enough, explain clearly enough, or sacrifice quietly enough, someone will finally wake up and meet them where they stand. This belief feels compassionate on the surface, but in Buddhism, it is recognized as a subtle form of delusion. Buddhism teaches that awakening is an internal process. It cannot be forced, rushed, or outsourced. Each person awakens through their own experiences, their own suffering, and their own readiness. No amount of patience on your part can replace someone else's inner work. When you wait for someone to awaken, you are not just waiting for change. You are placing your life on hold until another person reaches a level of awareness they may never reach. This is not love. It is self-erasure disguised as loyalty. The Buddha taught that ignorance is the root of suffering. Ignorance does not mean stupidity. It means being asleep to reality. Many people move through life emotionally asleep. They repeat patterns, avoid responsibility, fear intimacy, and resist growth. They are not evil. They are unconscious. The mistake is believing that your awareness can wake them up. You might see their potential clearly. You might understand their wounds. You might recognize who they could become if they healed, reflected, or matured. But potential is not reality. Buddhism is very clear about this distinction. Suffering comes from confusing what is possible with what is present. You fall in love with who they could be, not who they are. You wait for who they might become, not who they are choosing to be. This creates a painful split inside you. One part of you sees the truth, the other part keeps hoping. That internal conflict drains your energy and clouds your judgment. Another reason this lesson is difficult is that helping others feels meaningful. The ego enjoys the role of the one who understands, the one who stays, the one who loves unconditionally. It feels noble to believe you are the exception who will finally reach them. But Buddhism warns against spiritual pride. The belief that you can save someone who does not want to be saved is not humility. It is control wearing compassion's mask. True compassion respects autonomy. It does not override it. When someone is asleep, they do not experience your love as healing. They often experience it as pressure, expectation, or obligation. This can lead them to withdraw even further, reinforcing the very distance you are trying to close. Waiting in this situation becomes deeply exhausting because you are doing emotional labor for two people. You are holding awareness for yourself and for them. You are reflecting, adjusting, understanding, forgiving, and accommodating while they remain unchanged. Buddhism calls this imbalance a cause of suffering. Right relationship requires mutual presence, not perfection, but participation. Another painful truth is that awakening often comes through loss. People change not because someone waits for them, but because they feel the consequences of their choices. When you stay, wait, or absorb their impact, you sometimes delay the very lesson they need to learn. Letting go is not abandonment. It is allowing reality to teach what you cannot. This is where fear enters. Fear says that if you stop waiting, you are giving up. Fear says you are being heartless. Fear says they will never awaken if you leave. Buddhism teaches that fear is a product of attachment. When you are attached to an outcome, fear arises around losing it. When you release the outcome, fear loosens its grip. You are not responsible for someone else's awakening. You are responsible for your own clarity. When you accept that you cannot wake someone up, something shifts inside you. You stop explaining, you stop convincing, you stop negotiating your needs into smaller and smaller shapes to fit their limitations. You begin to see that love does not require you to stay in environments where you are unseen, unheard, or emotionally alone. This lesson does not ask you to judge or reject the other person. Buddhism is not about blame, it is about wisdom. Wisdom sees that staying attached to someone's potential is a form of suffering. Compassion can exist without proximity. Understanding can exist without endurance. Love can exist without waiting. The moment you stop trying to wake someone up, your energy returns. You feel lighter because you are no longer resisting reality. You are no longer pushing against what is not ready to move. You also begin to awaken more deeply within yourself. You see your own patterns of overgiving, overwaiting, and overhoping. You learn where you abandon yourself in the name of patience. This awareness is the beginning of freedom. Buddhism teaches the middle path, not clinging, not rejecting, just seeing clearly and acting accordingly. If someone is asleep, you do not shake them violently. You do not sit beside them forever, hoping they wake. You quietly stand up and continue your journey. Those who are ready will walk with you. Those who are not must walk their own path. You are not here to carry others toward awakening. You are here to live awake. And when you live awake, waiting loses its grip. 3. People show you who they are through action. One of the clearest teachings in Buddhism is the practice of seeing reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. This sounds simple, but it is one of the hardest disciplines for the human mind. The mind prefers stories. It prefers explanations that protect hope and soften disappointment. This is where suffering quietly grows. When it comes to relationships, the mind often ignores actions and clings to potential. You don't suffer because someone hasn't shown up. You suffer because you keep believing they might, despite all evidence to the contrary. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, which means paying attention without distortion. Mindfulness does not ask, "What could this mean?" It asks, "What is actually happening right now?" What is happening is action, or in many cases, inaction. If someone values you, they act. If someone wants to be present, they show up. If someone chooses you, they don't leave you guessing. This is not cruelty, it is reality. Waiting often comes from misreading silence as confusion, distance as fear, and neglect as temporary. The mind creates excuses because accepting the truth feels too final. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they care but don't know how to show it. Buddhism does not shame these thoughts, but it does not indulge them either. It gently brings you back to what is observable. Patterns, behavior, consistency. A single action can be misunderstood. A pattern cannot. When someone repeatedly fails to show up, respond, commit, or prioritize you, they are communicating something very clearly, not with words but with behavior. Words are easy, promises cost nothing. Action requires intention. The suffering begins when you treat words, potential, or memories as more real than present behavior. You start living in a version of reality that no longer exists. Buddhism calls this ignorance, not as an insult, but as a description of missing. Ignorance means not seeing clearly. Clear seeing can feel brutal at first because it removes comforting illusions. But those illusions were never protecting you. They were prolonging your pain. Another reason this lesson is difficult is that the ego resists it. The ego wants to believe that if you are patient enough, loving enough, understanding enough, someone will eventually recognize your value. This turns their behavior into a personal test rather than a neutral. Fact, Buddhism teaches non-personalization. Not everything is about you. Someone's inability to show up is not always a reflection of your worth. Often, it is a reflection of their capacity, priorities, or path. When you take their inaction personally, you turn their limitation into your burden. You begin trying to compensate for what they cannot give. You wait longer. You explain more. You lower your expectations. This is how self-abandonment begins, quietly. Mindfulness brings you back to the present moment and asks a simple question: is this enough for me right now? Not someday, not if they change, right now. If the answer is no, then continuing to wait is not compassion. It is denial. Buddhism does not encourage bitterness or judgment. It encourages discernment. Discernment is the ability to see clearly without hatred. You can acknowledge someone's limitations without resenting them. You can accept their behavior without excusing it. Acceptance does not mean staying. This is where many people get stuck. They believe that seeing reality clearly means they must cut people off harshly or become cold. Buddhism offers a quieter path. You simply stop arguing with what is. If someone is inconsistent, you stop expecting consistency. If someone is distant, you stop waiting for closeness. If someone does not choose you, you stop positioning yourself to be chosen. This is not punishment. It is in alignment with reality. When you align with reality, suffering decreases naturally. There is no dramatic confrontation required, no emotional speeches, no demands for closure. You just stop leaning towards someone who is not leaning back. The mind will resist at first. It will replay memories, highlight moments of kindness, and ask what-if questions. This is normal. Buddhism teaches patience with the mind, not obedience to it. Each time the mind drifts into fantasy, you bring it back to fact. What are they doing? How are they showing up? Is this consistent? Over time, clarity becomes steady. The emotional fog lifts. You no longer feel confused, only informed. And with that information comes relief. When you stop waiting for people to be different, you free yourself from constant disappointment. You stop trying to read between lines that are already clear. You stop investing energy where it is not returned. This does not harden you. It grounds you. Buddhism teaches that peace comes from truth, not comfort. Truth may hurt at first, but it does not keep hurting. Illusion hurts slowly, repeatedly, and quietly. Seeing people through their actions is an act of self-respect. It means you trust your perception. It means you believe what you see. It means you stop betraying yourself to preserve hope. You are not required to wait for clarity from others. Their behavior is already the answer. When you accept that, you stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, you return to yourself. 4. Waiting is the ego disguised as hope. This lesson is uncomfortable because it exposes a truth most people don't want to face. Waiting often feels gentle, loving, and patient on the surface. But beneath that surface, waiting is frequently driven by the ego's need for validation. In Buddhism, the ego is not a villain. It is simply the part of the mind that builds identity around comparison, approval, and control. It constantly asks, what does this say about me? When you wait for someone, the ego quietly turns a situation into a personal referendum on your worth. If they come back, you feel chosen. If they change, you feel valuable. If they finally commit, you feel confirmed. Hope becomes a currency. Waiting becomes a gamble for self-worth. This is why waiting feels so emotionally charged. It is not just about the other person. It is about what their decision would mean to you. The ego tells you that if you stop waiting, you are giving up the chance to be proven right, lovable, or enough. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when the sense of self depends on external conditions. The ego wants an outcome to validate its story. It wants a happy ending that justifies the pain endured. Waiting becomes a way to protect that story. You tell yourself that your patience means something, that your loyalty will be rewarded, that your understanding makes you different from others who left too soon. These thoughts feel meaningful, but they quietly bind your peace to someone else's behavior. This is ego attachment, not love. True love does not require self-destruction. True compassion does not require self-sacrifice. True patience does not require self-erasure. The ego resists letting go because letting go feels like failure. It feels like admitting that the time, energy, and emotion you invested will not pay off the way you hoped. Buddhism calls this clinging to views. You cling to the idea that the situation must resolve in a certain way for it to make sense. But life does not exist to justify our investments. Waiting keeps the ego alive because it sustains the belief that the story is still unfolding. As long as you are waiting, the ego can avoid closure. It can avoid the quiet grief of acceptance. It can avoid the humility of realizing that someone else's choices were never under your control. This is why waiting often feels safer than letting go. Letting go means facing the truth without guarantees. Waiting keeps the illusion alive that something might still happen. Buddhism teaches that hope tied to attachment is a form of suffering, not because hope is wrong, but because attached hope refuses to accept impermanence. Everything changes, people change, feelings fade, paths diverge. When the ego ignores impermanence, it insists that this one relationship, this one person, this one situation must be different. It creates a special exception where the rules of change do not apply. This is a delusion. The ego also uses comparison to keep you waiting. It whispers that others didn't try hard enough, weren't patient enough, didn't love deeply enough. It frames your endurance as virtue. But Buddhism warns that endurance without wisdom is not virtue. It is attached with a moral disguise. Waiting becomes self-betrayal when it costs you your dignity, your peace, and your sense of self. You begin adjusting your needs, silencing your voice, and shrinking your expectations just to keep hope alive. The ego calls this compromise. Buddhism calls it ignorance. Letting go is not a rejection of hope. It is the release of false hope. False hope says that someone else must change for you to be whole. True hope says that your peace does not depend on another person's awakening or return. When you stop waiting, the ego protests. It fears emptiness. It fears irrelevance. It fears that without the story, it will disappear. Buddhism teaches that this fear is the doorway to freedom. On the other side of the ego is clarity. When you release waiting, you begin to see that your worth was never on trial. You were never auditioning for love. You were never required to endure uncertainty to earn belonging. This realization softens the heart and steadies the mind. You stop measuring time by how long you've waited. You stop measuring love by how much you've suffered. You stop measuring yourself through another person's choices. Buddhism invites you to return to the present moment, where the ego has less power. In the present, there is no waiting. There is only what is happening now. And right now, you are here, breathing, aware, alive. When you see waiting for what it truly is, ego disguised as hope, you no longer need to fight it. You simply stop feeding it. You choose honesty over fantasy, clarity over comfort, freedom over validation. This is not a loss. This is maturity, and this is where real peace begins. 5. Self-love begins where waiting ends. In Buddhism, self-love is not framed as self-indulgence, confidence, or constant positivity. It is framed as non-harm. To love yourself is to stop participating in patterns that quietly injure your mind, your body, and your dignity. Waiting when it causes ongoing pain is one of those patterns. Many people believe self-love is something you add to your life. Buddhism teaches that it is often something you subtract. You remove what causes unnecessary suffering. You stop doing what hurts you, even if it hurts to stop. Waiting becomes harmful when it keeps you emotionally suspended. You delay decisions, mute your needs, and stay half present in your own life. You may still function, but you are not fully available to yourself. This is a subtle form of self-abandonment. Buddhism asks a direct question: is this action reducing suffering or increasing it? If waiting leaves you anxious, drained, and small, then continuing to wait is not patience. It is self-neglect. Self-love begins the moment you stop outsourcing your peace. As long as your emotional stability depends on another person's response, timing, or transformation, you are living in dependence. Buddhism teaches inner refuge, the ability to rest within yourself regardless of external conditions. Waiting teaches the opposite lesson. It teaches you to look outward for permission to feel whole. This is why stopping waiting feels terrifying at first. The mind fears emptiness. It fears standing alone without a narrative to cling to. But Buddhism teaches that emptiness is not absence. Emptiness is openness. It is space without distortion. When you stop waiting, you meet yourself without distraction. There is no one to monitor, no outcome to anticipate, and no emotional negotiation happening in the background. At first, this stillness can feel uncomfortable. You may feel exposed, but this is where self-love is born. Self-love is choosing clarity over comfort. Comfort says, stay just in case. Clarity says, this is costing me too much. Another misunderstanding is that self-love is selfish. Buddhism dissolves this idea by showing that harm to self always leads to harm to others. When you wait while hurting, you become resentful, exhausted, and emotionally inconsistent. You give from depletion, not fullness. Stopping waiting restores balance. You become more grounded, less reactive, and more honest. This is not selfishness. It is a responsibility. Self-love also means respecting your time. Buddhism teaches impermanence. Time is not guaranteed. When you wait indefinitely, you trade your present life for an imagined future. You postpone joy, growth, and engagement for something that may never arrive. This trade is rarely conscious. It happens quietly. Days blur, opportunities pass. You tell yourself you'll move forward once things become clear. But clarity rarely arrives while you are waiting. It arrives when you choose. Self-love is choosing to move anyway. Another layer of this lesson is boundaries. Buddhism does not use the modern language of boundaries, but it deeply respects right action. Right action means acting in ways that support well-being and reduce suffering. Waiting past your capacity violates right action. When you keep waiting despite pain, you teach yourself that your discomfort is acceptable, even necessary. This belief slowly erodes self-respect. You begin tolerating less than you need, not because it is enough, but because you fear letting go. Self-love reverses this pattern. It says, I will not stay where I am diminished. This decision does not require anger. Buddhism does not ask you to cut people off with hostility. It asks you to act without illusion. You can step away calmly, without punishment or drama, simply because staying no longer aligns with the truth. Stopping waiting is an act of trust. Trust that you can survive uncertainty. Trust that your life does not collapse without someone else's presence. Trust that peace does not need permission. This trust grows slowly. At first, you may feel guilt. The mind may accuse you of being cold, impatient, or unloving. Buddhism teaches that guilt often arises when you break an old pattern, not when you do something wrong. You are not betraying love. You are ending self-betrayal. As waiting ends, you begin to feel your own rhythm again. Your choices become clearer. Your energy steadies. You are no longer scanning for signals or signs. You start listening inward. This inward listening is the foundation of self-love in Buddhism. Awareness replaces anxiety. Presence replaces longing. You are no longer split between now and later. Self-love also changes how you relate to others. You stop chasing connection and start choosing it. You stop proving and start discerning. You become less available to confusion and more available to clarity. People who meet you from wholeness feel different. There is less desperation, less attachment, less fear. This does not guarantee perfect relationships, but it guarantees self-respect. Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you earn by enduring suffering. Peace is revealed when you stop creating unnecessary suffering. Waiting is often unnecessary suffering. When you stop waiting, you do not become hard. You become honest. You stop forcing your heart into timelines that do not belong to you. You stop negotiating your worth through endurance. Self-love begins quietly. It does not announce itself. It shows up as a simple decision. I will no longer pause my life for what is not choosing me. From that moment, something shifts. You stand where you are, fully present, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer abandoning yourself. This is not the end of love. It is the beginning of integrity, and integrity is the deepest form of self-love. 6. Letting go is not a loss, it is a relief. One of the deepest fears people carry is the belief that letting go means losing something essential, losing love, losing connection, losing meaning. In Buddhism, this fear is understood as a misunderstanding of what we are actually holding on to. Most of the time, we are not holding on to the person. We are holding on to the tension. We are holding on to unfinished conversations, imagined futures, and emotional investments that no longer match reality. Letting go feels frightening because we confuse the weight we've been carrying with something valuable. We forget how heavy it has become. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from loss itself, but from resistance to loss. When something ends, the natural response is grief. Grief moves. It rises and falls. But when we resist the ending, we create prolonged suffering. Waiting keeps resistance alive. It stretches pain over time. You don't experience a clean ending. You experience a slow erosion of peace. Each day you wait, you reopen the wound without allowing it to heal. This is why letting go often feels like relief, even when it hurts at first. Relief does not mean happiness. It means the tension stops tightening. The constant mental rehearsal ends. The body finally exhales. Buddhism places great importance on the body's wisdom. The body knows when something is over long before the mind accepts it. Chronic waiting shows up as fatigue, restlessness, anxiety, and heaviness in the chest. These are not signs of weakness. They are signals of misalignment. Letting go realigns you with reality. Another reason letting go feels like a loss is that the mind focuses on what disappears, not on what returns. When you release attachment, you regain something you didn't realize you had lost: yourself. Your attention comes back. Your energy returns. Your emotional space opens. While waiting, your life revolves around absence. You organize your thoughts, emotions, and plans around someone who is not fully there. Letting go breaks that orbit. You stop circling emptiness. Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes, including relationships, feelings, and identities. When we accept impermanence, we stop trying to freeze moments that are already moving. Letting go is not pushing something away. It acknowledges that it has already passed. This acknowledgement brings relief because it ends the internal argument. You stop asking why. You stop replaying scenarios. You stop negotiating with memory. Another misunderstanding is that letting go erases love. Buddhism makes a clear distinction between love and attachment. Love is warm, open, and present. Attachment is tight, fearful, and future-focused. When you let go of attachment, love does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes quieter, less demanding, less painful. You can wish someone well without needing them to stay. You can care without clinging. Relief comes from no longer needing someone to be different for you to be okay. Letting go also removes the constant hope-disappointment cycle. Hope rises, disappointment follows, and the cycle repeats. This emotional roller coaster exhausts the nervous system. Buddhism teaches balance, not extremes. When you release waiting, the nervous system settles. There is less anticipation, less collapse. Life becomes steadier. You may not feel euphoric, but you feel grounded. Many people avoid letting go because they fear regret. They worry that if they release, they might miss a future moment where things finally work out. Buddhism responds gently to this fear. You cannot miss what is not happening. You can only miss your own life by staying attached to illusion. Relief comes when you realize that peace is available now, not after someone changes. Letting go is not an act of force. It is an act of honesty. You admit what is no longer nourishing you. You stop pretending that endurance equals love. You stop confusing suffering with depth. This honesty is liberating. Buddhism teaches that clinging tightens the heart, while release softens it. A softened heart is not weaker, it is more resilient. It is less reactive. It is more present. When you let go, you create space. Space for new experiences, new connections, and new clarity. But even if nothing new arrives immediately, the relief itself is enough. You are no longer at war with reality. You are no longer negotiating with absence. You are no longer waiting. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean erasing the past. It means you stop living there. The greatest relief is realizing that nothing essential was lost. What you released was the struggle, not the love. And in that release, peace quietly returns. 7. Walk your path without looking back. In Buddhism, freedom is not found by controlling outcomes or securing perfect circumstances. It is found by releasing attachment to what no longer aligns with truth. Walking your path without looking back is not an act of indifference. It is an act of wisdom. Looking back keeps the mind anchored to what was or what could have been. It invites comparison, regret, and self-doubt. Buddhism teaches that the mind suffers when it lives anywhere other than the present moment. The past cannot be corrected, and the future cannot be guaranteed. Only the present is alive. When you stop waiting and begin walking your path, the mind often tries to pull you backward. It replays memories, highlights moments of connection, and asks if you left too soon or misunderstood something. This is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. It is a sign that attachment is loosening. Attachment does not release quietly, it negotiates. Buddhism teaches that attachment speaks in questions. What if they change? What if you regret this? What if you never find something better? These questions are not wisdom. They are fear trying to reestablish control. Walking forward requires trust in impermanence. Everything changes. Feelings shift. Identities dissolve and reform. The version of you who waited is not the version of you who walks. Looking back tries to keep you tied to an identity that no longer fits. Another reason people look back is the desire for closure. The mind wants a final conversation, a clear explanation, or mutual understanding. Buddhism teaches that closure is not something others give you. Closure is a decision to stop reopening the wound. Each time you look back, you reattach, you relive, you rehearse. This does not heal, it maintains the story. Walking your path means allowing the story to end without resolution. This feels unnatural because the mind seeks completion. But Buddhism teaches that not all endings arrive with answers. Some arrive with silence. Silence is not cruelty, it is finality. Walking forward without looking back does not mean suppressing emotion. Grief may still arise. Sadness may still appear. Buddhism does not ask you to avoid these states. It asks you not to build a home inside them. You feel grief. You do not live there. Another obstacle to walking forward is fear of loneliness. When you leave behind waiting, there is often a period of emptiness. The old attachment is gone, but the new path is not yet clear. Buddhism recognizes this as a transitional space, not a failure. This space is where growth happens. If you rush to fill it, you carry old patterns into new situations. If you stay present, clarity forms naturally. Walking your path requires patience with uncertainty. Buddhism teaches the middle way. Not clinging, not rejecting, just continuing forward without dragging the past behind you. Walking forward also means releasing the need to be understood. When you look back, you often hope that someone will finally recognize your effort, your pain, or your loyalty. Buddhism teaches that seeking recognition from those who could not meet you keeps you bound to them. You do not need validation to move on. You do not need agreement to choose peace. Walking your path is a quiet act. It does not announce itself. There are no dramatic exits, no final speeches, just a steady commitment to your own life. As you walk, something changes. The mind becomes less noisy. The heart becomes less reactive. You stop scanning the horizon for someone who is no longer part of your journey. You also stop measuring progress by whether someone notices your absence. This is a subtle but important shift. True freedom is not being missed. It is being present with yourself. Buddhism teaches that the path unfolds step by step. You do not need to see where it leads. You only need to take the next step without dragging yesterday with you. Looking back often comes from the belief that the past holds something you still need. Buddhism gently challenges this belief. Everything you needed from that experience has already been received. The lesson is complete. Continuing to look back only delays integration. Walking your path also requires compassion for yourself. You may stumble. You may question your choice. This does not mean you return to waiting. It means you strengthen awareness. Each step forward reinforces trust in yourself. Over time, the pull to look back weakens, not because you forget, but because the present becomes fuller. New routines form, new insights emerge, new connections align with who you are now. You begin to see that waiting was not a pause in your life. It was a lesson that led you here. Buddhism teaches that freedom is not dramatic. It is ordinary. It is waking up without heaviness. It is making choices without fear. It is walking without resistance. Walking your path without looking back does not erase the past. It places it where it belongs, behind you. You are not walking away from love. You are walking toward the truth. And when you walk toward truth, peace follows naturally. There is nothing you need to return to. There is nothing you need to prove. There is only the path in front of you. Take it. 8. Peace is not found, it is remembered. Many people believe peace is something they must earn, achieve, or be given. They think peace will arrive after closure, after answers, after someone finally understands or returns. Buddhism dismantles this belief entirely. Peace is not something you find later. Peace is something you remember when you stop forgetting yourself. Waiting makes you forget. It pulls your attention outward. It convinces you that peace lives somewhere else, in another person's actions, timing, or decisions. This is the deepest illusion. In Buddhism, peace is the natural state of the mind. When it is not grasping, The mind does not need to be fixed to be peaceful. It only needs to stop clinging. Waiting is clinging stretched across time. It keeps the mind reaching forward, never resting where it is. When you stop waiting, peace does not suddenly appear. It quietly reveals itself, like silence after noise, like still water after waves settle. This is why peace can feel unfamiliar at first. You have been living in tension for so long that calm feels empty. The nervous system mistakes peace for lack of stimulation. The mind asks, "Is this it?" It is used to create drama, uncertainty, and emotional highs and lows. Buddhism teaches that peace feels ordinary. It is not exciting. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It simply feels steady. Waiting trains you to believe that intensity equals meaning, that longing equals depth, that suffering proves love. Buddhism gently corrects this misunderstanding. Meaning comes from presence, not pain. Peace does not need proof. Another reason peace feels distant is that people believe it depends on resolution. They think peace requires answers, explanations, or apologies. Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from understanding everything. It comes from accepting what cannot be changed. Acceptance is not agreement. It is not approval. It is in alignment with reality. When you accept that someone is not coming, not changing, not choosing you, the internal argument ends. The mind stops rehearsing conversations that will never happen. The heart stops, bracing for disappointment. This ending is not dramatic, it is quiet. And that quiet is peace. Peace is remembered when you stop searching for it in other people. When you stop asking, "What does this mean about me?" and start resting in the fact that your existence does not require explanation. Buddhism teaches that the self you are trying to protect through waiting is not solid. It is a collection of thoughts, memories, and expectations. When you stop waiting, this false self softens. What remains is awareness. Awareness is peaceful by nature. You don't create peace, you remove what blocks it. Waiting blocks peace by keeping the mind unresolved. It keeps the heart leaning forward. It keeps the body tense. When waiting ends, the system resets slowly, gently, naturally. Another illusion is that peace means indifference. Buddhism does not teach numbness. It teaches non-attachment. You can care without clinging. You can remember without reopening wounds. You can love without waiting. Peace is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of struggle with feeling. You may still feel sadness. You may still miss someone. But these feelings pass through instead of settling in. They no longer define your days. They no longer control your choices. This is peace remembered. Buddhism often compares the mind to the sky. Thoughts and emotions are clouds. Waiting keeps you focused on one cloud, staring at it, following its shape, fearing its movement. When you stop waiting, you look up and remember the sky itself. The sky was never damaged by the clouds. Peace was never destroyed by waiting. It was only obscured. Peace also changes how you move through life. You become less reactive, less urgent, less driven by fear of loss. Decisions come from clarity instead of desperation. You stop asking, "What if I lose this?" You start asking, "Does this align with truth?" This shift is subtle but profound. Peace does not mean life becomes perfect. It means you stop fighting what is imperfect. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's capacity. You stop tying your identity to outcomes you cannot control. You return to yourself. Remembering peace also brings humility. You see how much energy you spent waiting, hoping, embracing. You don't judge yourself for it. Buddhism does not punish ignorance. It dissolves through awareness. You bow to your past self, not in shame, but in understanding. Peace is also protective. Once remembered, it becomes easier to recognize situations that threaten it. You become less willing to re-enter patterns of waiting, not because you are rigid, but because you know the cost. Peace teaches you discernment. You no longer chase clarity from others. You no longer wait for permission to move on. You no longer mistake tension for love. Peace does not ask you to close your heart. It asks you to stop abandoning it. When you remember peace, life feels simpler. Not smaller, but cleaner. Less cluttered with stories, expectations, and emotional debts. You realize that peace was never at the end of waiting. It was waiting for you to stop waiting. And when you remember that, you stop searching. You live. 9. Silence is not emptiness. It is a strength. After you stop waiting, after you walk your path without looking back, there is often silence. No messages, no updates, no emotional noise. This silence can feel unsettling at first because most people mistake silence for absence, rejection, or loneliness. Buddhism teaches the opposite. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space, and space is strength. When you were waiting, your mind was crowded, thoughts looping, scenarios replaying, questions without answers, hope rising and collapsing. That noise felt familiar, even though it was painful. Silence feels unfamiliar. So the mind assumes something is wrong. But silence is what remains when attachment loosens. In Buddhism, silence is not the lack of life. It is the absence of distortion. It is the mind no longer pulling reality into stories. When you stop waiting, the mind has nothing to chase. At first it panics. It tries to fill the space with memories, doubts, or urges to reach out. This is a critical moment. If you mistake silence for loss, you will run back to noise. If you recognize silence as strength, you will settle into it. Silence gives you back your power because it returns your attention to where it belongs. Before, your awareness was scattered, constantly reaching outward. Now it gathers inward. You become centered. Buddhism teaches that scattered attention is the root of restlessness. Collected attention is the root of peace. Silence collects attention. Another reason silence feels uncomfortable is that it removes distraction. Without constant emotional stimulation, you begin to feel what was buried underneath: waiting. Grief, disappointment, relief, clarity. Buddhism does not ask you to avoid these experiences. It asks you to allow them to pass through without clinging. Silence is the container that allows this to happen. Strength is not found in reaction. It is found in restraint. In Buddhism, restraint is not suppression. It is a conscious choice. When you choose silence instead of reaching out, explaining, or proving, you are not withholding love. You are conserving energy. Every time you resist the urge to break the silence, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Silence also protects clarity. When you speak too soon, you often speak from habit, fear, or longing. When you stay silent, you allow insight to mature. You see situations more clearly. You respond instead of react. This is a strength. Many people believe silence is passive. Buddhism sees silence as active awareness. It is staying present without interference. It is trusting that you do not need to insert yourself into every moment for life to continue. Silence also dissolves the need to be understood. When you are silent, you stop seeking validation. You stop hoping someone will finally recognize your pain or effort. Buddhism teaches that seeking understanding from those who could not meet you keeps you bound to them. Silence breaks that bond. Gently, it says, "I no longer need to explain my worth." This does not make you cold. It makes you grounded. Over time, silence becomes peaceful rather than tense. The nervous system calms. The body softens. You begin to enjoy the simplicity of not managing someone else's perception. This is when real strength appears. Strength is not convincing others. Strength is standing without explanation. Strength is being whole without weaknesses. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes strong when it stops chasing stimulation. Silence trains the mind to rest. A rested mind sees clearly. A clear mind does not suffer unnecessarily. Silence also creates a boundary without conflict. You are not punishing anyone. You are not withdrawing to provoke a reaction. You are simply no longer engaging in what drains you. This is the right action. In silence, you begin to hear yourself again. Your own rhythm, your own intuition, your own needs. When you were waiting, these signals were drowned out by anticipation. Silence restores them. You may notice that you breathe deeper, that time feels slower, and that your thoughts are fewer but more precise. This is not emptiness. This is presence. Buddhism teaches that presence is the highest refuge. Not people, not outcomes, not stories. Presence. Silence anchors you in presence. Eventually you realize that silence does not isolate you from life. It reconnects you to it. You engage more fully with what is actually in front of you, rather than what you are missing. You stop reaching, you stop bracing, you stop waiting. Silence becomes your ground. And from that ground, any future connection will be chosen, not needed. Any relationship will be entered from fullness, not lack. Silence is not what remains when everything is gone. Silence is what remains when illusion falls away. That is why it feels powerful. That is why it feels real. That is why it feels like strength. When you learn to stay silent without fear, you no longer depend on noise for meaning, and that is freedom. 10. You were never meant to wait. You were meant to live. At the deepest level, Buddhism teaches that life is movement. Breath moves, time moves. Everything arises, changes, and passes. Waiting, when it becomes a way of life, goes against this natural flow. It freezes you in place while life continues without you. You were never meant to suspend your existence for someone else's readiness. Waiting often feels like a pause, but in reality, it is a slow withdrawal from life. You stop fully committing to your own path. You delay decisions. You hesitate to grow, to change, to choose. You keep one foot in the present and one foot in a future that may never arrive. This split is exhausting because the mind cannot rest while it is divided. Buddhism teaches right livelihood, right effort, right action. All of these point toward engagement with life as it is happening now. Waiting is disengagement disguised as hope. It convinces you that living will begin later once conditions are perfect, once people align, once clarity arrives. But clarity rarely arrives through waiting. It arrives through movement. Living does not mean rushing or forcing outcomes. It means participating fully in your own experience. When you wait, you step out of participation. You become an observer of your own life, watching time pass while holding on to a story that keeps you still. Buddhism warns against this kind of inertia, not with fear, but with compassion. The Buddha taught that every moment is an opportunity for awareness. When you spend those moments waiting, you miss the chance to meet life directly. Another reason waiting feels familiar is that it creates identity. You become the one who is patient, loyal, understanding, or strong enough to endure uncertainty. This identity feels meaningful, but it quietly replaces living. You measure your life by endurance instead of presence. Buddhism teaches that identity itself is impermanent. Any identity built on waiting will eventually collapse because it depends on something outside your control. When it collapses, you are left disoriented, unsure of who you are without the story. Living dissolves this problem. When you live, you are not clinging to an identity. You are responding to the present moment. Living also means accepting risk. Waiting feels safer because it postpones loss. If you don't move, you don't have to face uncertainty. But Buddhism teaches that avoiding uncertainty is itself a form of suffering. Impermanence cannot be escaped. Delaying life does not protect you from change. It only limits your experience. You do not avoid pain by waiting. You avoid growth. living requires courage. The courage to step forward without guarantees. The courage to let life unfold without controlling every outcome. Buddhism does not promise that life will be easy. It promises that it will be honest. Waiting is dishonest because it pretends that life is on hold. Another hidden cost of waiting is that it dulls joy. When your mind is always oriented toward what is missing, it cannot fully appreciate what is present. Even good moments feel incomplete because you are still waiting for something else to arrive. Living brings your attention back to what is here, the body, the breath. The day is unfolding in front of you. Buddhism teaches that joy arises naturally when the mind is present, not when conditions are perfect. You don't need your life to be resolved to live it. You need to stop postponing it. Living also restores agency. Waiting places power in someone else's hands. Your mood, your plans, and your sense of direction all depend on what another person does or does not do. Buddhism teaches inner authority, the ability to stand on your own awareness. When you choose to live, you reclaim that authority. You decide where your energy goes. You decide what you participate in. You decide what matters. Now, this does not mean cutting off love or connection. It means you stop organizing your life around absence. You stop orienting yourself toward what is not happening. Living also brings humility. You accept that not everything will make sense. Not every story will resolve neatly. Buddhism teaches that life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a process to be experienced. Waiting tries to solve life before living it. Living allows life to teach you as you go. When you stop waiting and begin living, something unexpected happens. You realize that many of the fears that kept you still were imagined. You survive uncertainty, you adapt. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You also realize that life did not punish you for moving forward. It met you. Living does not erase the past. It integrates it. The lessons from waiting become wisdom, not regret. You don't condemn your past self. You understand them. They did the best they could with the awareness they had. Now awareness has grown. Buddhism teaches that awakening is not a single moment. It is a series of small recognitions. One of the most important recognitions is this: life is happening now, not later. You do not need permission to live. You do not need certainty to move. You do not need someone else to arrive for your life to begin. Waiting was never your purpose. Enduring was never your destiny. You were meant to live with presence, honesty, and courage. To walk forward even when the path is unclear. To engage with life as it unfolds, not as you wish it would. When you stop waiting, life does not suddenly become perfect. It becomes real. And that is enough. That is living. Waiting taught you many things, but it was never meant to be your destination. It showed you where you gave your power away. It revealed how often you mistook endurance for love. It exposed how quietly you abandoned yourself while hoping someone else would arrive. Buddhism does not condemn waiting. It simply shows its cost. When you waited, your life did not stop, but your presence did. Your attention lived in the future. Your peace depended on conditions. Your worth felt negotiable. And over time, that distance from yourself became suffering. What these lessons return you to is not hardness, indifference, or isolation. They return you to reality, to clarity, to a life that is no longer postponed. You learn that attachment disguises itself as hope, that actions speak louder than imagined intentions, that you cannot awaken someone who refuses to see, that ego feeds on waiting, that letting go is relief, not loss, that self-love begins with non-harm, that walking forward without looking back is wisdom, that silence is strength, that peace was never missing, and that you were always meant to live. Nothing here asks you to close your heart. It asks you to stop breaking it. You don't leave waiting with anger. You leave with understanding. You don't walk away to punish anyone. You walk forward to return to yourself. Life does not reward waiting. Life responds to presence. And now, instead of leaning toward what may never come, you stand where you are, grounded, clear, awake. That is not the end of love. It is the end of suffering that pretended to be love. And from here, whatever comes next will meet you whole, not waiting.